So we're going to move over to our next speaker. Welcome. Camilla Bilstad Johannessen. You are a project leader for the social entrepreneurship Café Vintage, but you're also a member of the parliament, right?
I'm not a member, I'm an advisor.
You're an advisor?
So it means
I'm just going to say member.
What to not to.
Anyway, so she's just coming straight from the parliament. So here she is. Yes, so welcome, and we're so glad that you made it here. We're going to hear your story now in terms of the Café Vintage, right?
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy that Pilka was here before me, but because even if I'm an advisor at Parliament, I don't have as good manners as I have in continental Europe. So now I know that I have to say thank you so much to the ambassadors for inviting me and the Institute before I start my small session. I started my political journey and my journey as a person with a lot of motivation to change how we work on integration of refugees and other migrants about 6 or 7 years ago. Because I recognized as per Ilka that we don't manage to use the resources of the people who live here and want to work here and the people who moved to Norway. And that surprised me, and I didn't understand why it had to be like that. It's not good on a micro level for the individual, and it's very bad at the macro level, because we are in need of all individuals being a part of our society, and especially with labor integration. That led to me starting a social enterprise, which means that you have an enterprise that has another goal than just making profit. We take decisions and we run our business based on our social goals. So we basically do anything we can to train and hire and rehiring in other companies as well. Women with minority backgrounds and that has immigrated to Norway from countries outside of the OECD with low formal education. I have to say also, as a comment to you, that we also have a lot of women who have higher education that are sent to us because they don't have any good systems for recognizing their resources either. So we see both. But that is what a social enterprise is. We started in 2014. I opened a cafe. I was interviewed for a job at a restaurant once. Myself, I didn't get it when I was studying, so I was quite brave. I opened a cafe with a lady from Mogadishu and a lady from Bangkok, and I was thinking, these ladies can cook, I can do the rest. And we're still running. Now we have 2 different departments, one in Larvik and one in Sandefjord. We have at all times between 10 and 15 ladies who are hired in our business. For many of them, it's their very first job. We've had over 70 ladies who had their first job. They've never been working in Norway before. And the typical background they have are that they are housewives. They've spent their entire lives taking care of their homes, which is much more normal in many other parts of the world. I personally think that the real Norwegian oil is women in labor life, and we need them. So we know what it does for our economy that women participate. So it's very important for us. We have several bottom lines. So we have our financial bottom line with typical services for within a household. It can be cleaning, catering, running canteens, taking care of the food service for different companies. So we cooperate a lot with the businesses around us. And we have our cafe. And in all these services, the women have normal positions and normal salaries. But what they do need is to have a space and a way to train their identity as professional workers, because cooking in your house is different from cooking for the ambassador, for example, or someone else. So you need to have a safe space to train your skills, and also to train for being a professional chef, to explore your career ways based on your resources, being formal or informal. And we have had a close cooperation with our social welfare department since the beginning. I know that we have a lot to learn from other European countries when it comes to this, because I don't know what it is with Norway. We are a bit, we use a lot of time to question the way we do things, which leads to a family sitting with no food on the Friday afternoon and calling Perilka, or it leads to some of my ladies who are sitting at home and wondering, or they know after many years that their competence and their resources cannot be used because the opening for a job position with what they know and what they can learn, and these are adult men and women who have a lot of experience, and they have children to provide for, and they're sent into very long integration training for 6-7 years if they want to have a formal education on a fagbrev level. So that means that you're also sent to a life on social welfare for those 7 years, which means that your family will be in what we call a modern day poverty situation. So it's very serious for the people involved, both men and women. So that's what provoked me a lot. And I know that statistically, my ladies and their families are in a much bigger danger than almost anyone else to end up in this poverty situation. We need 2 incomes. It's not only the Norwegian oil, it's so expensive that in most families you need to have 2 incomes to be able to provide for yourself. And if we could, release the resources within these women, we know it would reduce the pressure on public welfare, which we also need, because we have a lot of seniors coming in years, that we know that it's going to be a big adjustment, also together with a lot of other changes towards a more green future. So we need to have a social and green future, and then we need to use all the resources we have in our society. So that's why I started my cafe, and Perilka was talking a little bit about this, like how do people learn? And modern teaching theory says that you need to build a house around the ground fundament in the building. So my idea was that if we take what's there from before and build on this, we will get a better result, and we will go further than if you start without a history from scratch. Because if you're 45 years, you don't start from scratch. There is something there. And the idea was to create an alternative classroom. It's very hard for people who are working in the public welfare office in my city to understand that it's a classroom, but it is a classroom because we build on the concretes and the names. If you eat a tomato, you see a tomato, you cook with a tomato, it's much more easy to remember the word tomato in Norwegian than just seeing it in a book. And that goes for all of us. So I did not know, and the same way that I didn't know if to cook very well when I opened, I didn't know if it would be working to have this alternative platform for learning, but it turns out it's working quite well. We have 7 out of 10 women who get their first job after working with us, and we have them there for a 6-month long period, more or less. We also have mentor positions within local businesses, so that we have it's like a stair model. You start by being recruited by the Public Welfare Office, and then we are in charge of making the change, both in the identity, like the feeling that work is important for me, this is what I want, I can do it, there's a job in reach. Then you have a change in motivation from the individuals as well. And also training with with what's expected from you when you come into a professional kitchen in Norway. So it's both in our classroom, but also in local cooperation. I think it changes attitudes within some conservative immigrant communities, but also by the average Norwegian. Because we need to get more used to seeing the people who normally aren't that active in labor life, in offices, in restaurants, and everywhere else, for it to be more normal for people to hire someone whose name is Ali or Muhammad or Hamdiye or Aisha, like you were talking about earlier as well, Prilka. I think finding models like this is a concrete tool to reduce child poverty, definitively. Because the more people who can, and families who can have their own social mobility, what's the more profound freedom than being able to live your life like you want to, getting the start. If you mobilize and you move from Mogadishu to Norway, you have a motivation, you have wishes, of course, and you have, of course, you want all well for your kids and family. So having enough to survive and having to be able to make your own choices because you are working and have your own income, it's the first level. We need to reduce unemployment. What's better than getting a job? You had 40% of the refugees who were unemployed. It's, I think, 2.7 in the major population, so that's quite a big difference. And in my target group, it's higher than in the majority of the immigrants. So it's a severe problem. I think also that I don't think I know that when the mom works, it does something about both the results in education and also the connection to work life for children. So I think if you get mom working, you can also change social inequality between generations. So it's a short time and a long time change. The one thing I wanted to discuss with you, based on the sustainability goals you've chosen, is that we have to recognize that our institutions aren't always adequately fit for the needs of our population. And what I see is that in Norway we have an education system that's not built for recognizing my target group's qualifications. They're not given access to high school, which is quite serious. So if they don't have or can prove their formal education, or if they have low formal education, they can never get a diploma from high school saying that you're a professional chef or you're a professional cleaner even, which you need to get a permanent job and an adequate salary. So you are shown out the back door before you've even begun. So that's, if there is one thing I think we should work for changing, it should be the structural barriers that don't let people fulfill their potential. If not, both we and whoever needs that change the most is losing a lot. I have no clue on how I'm doing on my time because I'm a talking machine, but you're doing fine. Yes, that's, I think, is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very inspiring to hear these stories that are really emphasizing on the resources of migration. One of the things that I remember from a few years back when Ambassador Aas was the Norwegian ambassador to the United States was that he came to Minneapolis because of the Somali population. We have the largest Somali population in the United States outside of Somalia in Minneapolis. And most of those women are working and having their own businesses after 6 months of arriving in the United States. And he said, we have something to learn from what they're doing and what they're capable of doing in terms of structures and what is stopping people in Norway. But again, I think it's just so inspiring to hear your stories about how you're really harboring women. Also want to just talk about the concept of språkbad, which is being immersed in language, and how when you are doing everything Norwegian or doing in another language, you learn so much easier. And I'm thinking about these women that you work with who and come from all different parts of the world with all different languages. They are probably uniting over Norwegian in that kitchen, right? So just a little bit of perspective on that.